No, when I talk to especially Chabad people in America and I tell them this, they always tell me the same thing. They tell me, "Oh, you should be able to make uh, anywhere in the world, you should turn the whole thing of Chabad, you should turn wherever you are into the land of Israel." And I tell them two things, and I say to them, for me, this is just me, Tzvi,
Yeah.
there is no Torah with outside of the land of Israel, without and or outside of the land of Israel. And the second thing I say is, as much as I've tried, and I have tried, believe me, I've tried, I cannot, for the life of me, turn any place outside of Israel into Israel. For many reasons. I've tried, I can't do it. And I feel like I'm just like completely, literally like a fish out of water. It's very, it makes me very sad. At best, I was thinking the other day, that it's almost like I'm just by virtue of what I'm doing for a living or trying to do for make a living out of it. It's almost like I'm an emissary of the land of Israel in America, let's say, right? Just by virtue of like all this grapes and all this stuff, right? The land based. But for me, without the land, without the earth, there literally is no Judaism.
Okay, so
It
I
it,
know
it
I know.
and I'll say one more thing about this. And it kills me to see Jews, like people who follow the Torah and mitzvahs here, let's say in America, who are completely, seemingly, maybe they're not okay, but it looks like they're okay with the fact that they're okay with that. They're okay with their themselves not being in the land of Israel, and somehow they live a life according to Torah or follow Torah. Or, I don't know. To me, it's so empty and almost, I don't want to use the word pointless, but it's almost pointless. It's what the Rambam said. The Rambam said it's as if you have no God. I think the Gemara said it. I don't remember what. Rambam said it's like your practice, outside the land of Israel. It's as if you have no God.
So listen, this can of worms that you're discussing right now
Yeah.
is just that. And I want to say I
I don't
disagree
mean
with.
to, I don't mean, listen, it's just
No,
how,
no, just hold on. I disagree with you in the strongest possible terms of what you just said.
okay.
I don't think we can talk about it in this
I mean,
conversation.
it's not a question of disagree, agree. It's just a matter of like how one, this is just what my soul tells me. It's not like I want it to be this way.
Okay,
You know
no,
what I'm
this
saying?
okay, okay, fine. For
Like
yourself.
I'm in pain right now, dude.
Okay, I understand. So for
Like I could
yourself.
be in I could be in Israel and I could have a rocket flying in my face and I'd still be I'd be have a smile from ear to ear. I'm in pain. When I'm
Okay,
outside of Israel, I'm in pain. I'm in physical pain.
okay,
Every nanosecond.
I respect your personal
That's
emotional
it.
feelings,
That's
right?
emotional, spiritual. I
But
mean,
I don't. Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
dude.
No,
But
it's yeah.
I understand that. But I think that what you said about Torah outside the land of Israel and of it being pointless, it's
It's not
it's
pointless. It's just it's
grossly untrue and unfair.
no,
I
no,
don't want to
you're
get into it now.
no, I think there's for me, there's deficiencies because of things that are missing. Again, land-based mitzvot that are so big, and it's not only so big, it's so incredible that for the first time now in 2000 years, we're able to do them again. Even if we don't have a temple, there's other things that we can now do, and like it's incredible, and we can't do them. Dude, you know that I have a friend who gives his father gives tours in Israel. He's a tour guide in Israel. And American Jews come and he gives tours to people from New York and other places. And he gave a tour of like vineyards or whatever it was, right? And this lady said, "But how do you deal with the problem of Shemitah?" And he said, "What do you mean the problem of Shemitah? You mean the opportunity of Shemitah, right?" Like she's like, "I understand. I know what you mean. But what do you mean? You know what I mean when I say the problem? Like basically the people who keep Shemitah, like winemakers, farmers, they're losing money that year because of whatever." She kept going on with it, the problem of Shemitah, the problem, the problem, the problem. And he's just like, it's not a problem. It's a mitzvah. It's an opportunity. It's something we haven't been able to do in 2,000 years. So it's like, that's missing. When you're here, that's missing. All that's missing, dude. That's all I'm saying. It's not pointless. Obviously, it's not pointless. There's so much missing, though.
Look, you have to. I really didn't want to get into this like topic because it's a very long conversation if you're going to
Yeah,
do it right.
yeah,
Okay, but I'm not even going to say but because it's going to lead to one. It's going to lead. We have to get off this topic
yeah,
and maybe pick it up in our next conversation.
yeah.
Okay. Um, the you know what? No, I guess we have to do it now because you open this can of worms. You can God set things up in a way. He spread us out all over the world, and he
Yeah,
treated us really bad.
yeah,
And but he still wanted us to have families and to try to make a living somehow,
sure,
right? And
sure.
Israel is not friendly
I
to
agree,
all of the
man.
Jewish people.
I
It's
agree
not
with
friendly to
you.
most of them.
That
It
that's
is
not.
hostile
I'm
to
not. I'm
to
not.
us outside of Israel.
I'm not denying what you're saying.
Okay, so
But
so
when you
and
say
he
not
and
friendly, like no, I mean, if you want to make the case that there's
I'm
it's
going to
difficult
explain
to
what I mean.
it's
I'm
difficult
gonna,
to make it's difficult to make income. That's I agree.
I'm going to explain. No,
I'm
I'm
only
going to
talking about
explain what I
myself. I'm not forcing anybody to like
I'm going to
go and pick
explain what
up
I
and go
mean.
to Israel.
I'm going to explain what I mean. All right.
Okay.
It's hostile economically, politically, culturally. Okay.
Okay.
The people who started Israel, right,
Yeah.
are they wanted to create a secular,
Yeah.
devoid of spirituality,
Yeah.
Mediterranean
You're right.
tourist, uh, some kind of like beach paradise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And they don't want religious people there.
I agree with
They
you.
didn't want
But
them
despite
there.
all that, it's just became the Torah capital of the world.
Okay, I know, I
Despite all
understand.
that,
I
it's
I
happening. Everything that's happening in Israel today is
I
despite all the stuff that you're talking about.
I understand. Okay, so the few religious people who were left over after the Holocaust who got there and who
Yeah.
had to fight through the that evil secularism, right, where they're trying to suck the soul out of the country and out of the people and try to turn the women into whores
Yeah.
and to turn them everybody into a some kind of like intellectual
Yeah.
platonic elite,
Yeah.
right? And 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 that it didn't work out the way they wanted it to, but the
Yeah.
people who got there, the actual majority of the population who were fleeing, Jews fleeing from all the Arab countries,
Yeah.
and the people who were fleeing
Yeah.
Europe, the survivors from the Holocaust. Okay, they were just trying to get there and to live in this underdeveloped, hostile uh, place. Okay, they were literally just trying to survive
Yeah.
and just live after World War II,
Okay.
and then constantly getting attacked by Arabs. It's a horrible place to be. The people who ended up there, they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
They literally had nowhere else to go.
I feel you.
Okay, and they came, the whole place was being run by people who are hostile
Yeah.
to 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 anybody who wants to make a decent living, capitalism,
Yeah.
and they were hostile to anybody who wanted to practice religion. Like there's so much opposition. See, the way things turned out was miraculous. Fine, okay. So
Yeah.
the way that people got there, it was all orchestrated by God. That the people who are in Israel, those are the people that God wanted to be there,
Sure.
and the
Sure. Of
people
course.
who never
There's no
got
argument there.
there, God sent them elsewhere.
Not only that, I think that honestly, when I think of people who make Aliyah today, including myself, first of all, it's today with all the stuff that you said, it's never been easier in terms of just physically. It used to be if a person, these rabbis who wanted to go to Israel, they had to go on a horse and buggy and go through like I don't know Ottoman
In the
Turkey.
17,
Yeah,
1800s.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And go through like robbers and
Yeah,
all the rest of it. Today, you get, if you scrape up, even my friend, he's like literally, he lives in this guy, friend of mine. He lives in he works for this organization, whatever. He lives in Efrat. He
yeah.
spends a lot of time in Hebron, and now he's saying he's flying to New York to visit his mother. So he's flying. He got himself like a cheap flight with his like two stops, one stop in Romania, and then another stop in Norway. Whatever. He's just gonna spend like a day in each thing.
Yeah.
Even with that, it's like still relatively, quote unquote, entertaining, fun, and easier than being attacked on the way. And then finally, we heard stories of rabbis who finally got to Israel, and then as soon as they got to Israel, they went what is it, on the Temple Mount, and then they were killed by an Arab and trampled by an Arab. Who was it? I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean, these are horrible stories.
yeah, it's a terrible story. And this is before any government, secular governments are.
Right.
So no, so what I'm saying is like today, I have, including myself and other people that I know who made Aliyah, it's really a thing of, you know, do you want to participate in, yeah, continuing to build a country, and yes, to turn, and it sounds a little bit idealistic, to turn the tide of everything that's happening. And yeah, and I learned this kind of the hard way, where you're not gonna, there still is this political aristocracy in Israel for sure, in the Knesset.
Horrible.
For example, like Gideon Sar, right? The one that Rabbi Kessin was talking about. He was going to be the prime minister or whatever. You know who Gideon Sar's father was? He was Ben Gurion's doctor. Okay? So shocker that Gideon Sar got to be in the
I know
Knesset.
these
Whoop de
guys. Yeah.
freaking do. Do you know who Bibi's grandfather was a big rabbi who was with Rav Kook, one of the founding rabbis of, pre-state Israel. And then his father was a famous professor, and then his brother was a famous, Yonatan was a famous commander who died, and then Bibi got to be whatever somehow in there. So it's like nobody just comes from the outside. Even like Lieberman supposedly is some like former whatever guy, right? He was with Kahana, or he was with, I don't know. Some people think he was in general with the KGB, whatever. It's a lot of speculations about Lieberman. So like Yair Lapid was on television. His father was in the Knesset, who hated religious people. Bennett, who was it was a startup guy who made $40 million and then somehow got into politics. You can't just like, that meme. One does not simply get into Israeli politics. Okay, it's not for the people by the people.
No.
But at the same time, you can come there, and I've seen it, and I did it myself to some measure before. I won't get into why I had to come back to America, not by choice. Um, you can carve out your own thing there. You can. Not
Ask you a
everybody.
question. How can I carve out let's talk about me. Let's talk about me right now.
Yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to pay this month's rent.
I feel you.
How the hell would I be able to go in Israel right now
Well,
with my
Frank, well,
child?
Frank, can I tell you something? No, I'm not telling you to go to Israel.
No,
That's
but
not.
I represent the
So,
people
I will just tell you. I'll tell you one
most
thing.
of us are dealing
I'll,
with.
I'll tell you one thing, Frank. I'll tell you one
Yeah,
thing, and I'm
yeah.
and I'm only implying this to myself, and it's something that I've seen with myself. I don't know if the same would be true for you, because I'm not a prophet, and I can't make that calculation. I notice this, that when I'm in Israel, physically in Israel, whether it was when I was living there or whenever I'm visiting there, and when I visit there, I usually visit for a month or two, and the minute I touch down there, something starts happening with my prospects in terms of career. I don't want to say career, but just like, something to do with my mission in this world, which includes income, by the way. I get phone calls, I get somebody messages me, I meet somebody, da, 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 and it's only happens in Israel. With regards to what's been happening in America, what I've been doing, with my business, there's a reason that I'm doing something that's connected to Israel, because what I found was anytime I've tried to do anything since I got back from Israel in 2013, since I got back here, anytime I tried to do anything not connected to Israel, something to do with what I was previously doing in my, in my career, in my life, or anything new, quote unquote, just to something that would like keep me in America, literally has crashed and burned monumentally. So anything not connected to Israel or anything outside of Israel has
You're talking
been.
about your personal mazel.
I know, no. That's why I just said
I
that to
ask you a
you.
question
No, no.
about
So what I'm
a
saying
guy.
is,
Yeah,
I don't know what would happen with you, I don't know.
Right.
But no, no. So let me just finish. But it's entirely possible. It's possible. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it's possible that it may be that if nothing, absolutely nothing you're trying here in America is working as you've described, that's been the case. It's possible it may be worth a shot, even if it falls flat on its face over there. It might. I've seen people where they tried over there, also over there, nothing worked, and they came back with tail between legs of America.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ask my question again.
Yeah.
I don't think I, maybe I didn't communicate it correctly.
Okay.
How am I going to get my wife and my child over to Israel? How am I going to find a place for them to live and to eat?
Sir, my answer will be the answer that I'm going to give to you in terms of my experience. Before I made Aliyah, I did not know the answer to any of those questions, and I had a baby on the way. I did not know the answer to any of those questions, and you know what happened? I'm just telling you from my personal experience. I don't have the answer to your question, nor did I have the answer to my own questions. I got on a plane. I landed in Israel in the heat of August. My ball, in the words of Greg Giraldo, my balls were sticking to the inside of my legs. They were. I started looking for a job. It was the Hagim, the entire country, including Tel Aviv. All the offices were closed. All the companies were closed. I got an interview in the middle of Chol Hamoed Sukkot, and they gave me a job where I started right after Sukkot.
Okay, where's your lady at this point? During this
Which lady?
entire, you said you
Which?
had a kid on the way.
Yeah, no,
Where's your
she was
lady?
no, she was already living in Israel. No, like she came
Ah,
to.
she was already living in
No,
Israel.
she came to. No, but dude, she came to stay with me, and then she wasn't making any porno. So who was the breadwinner? Mr. Brand New Ole,
No, no,
Mr.
dude,
Greg.
you skipped the primary step. You're not going to just gloss over that shit.
What primary
I'm
step?
gonna give you a hard time right now.
Okay,
Your lady was already in Israel.
but she
A
wasn't.
guy like me, who let's say
Okay,
wants to move his family to Israel,
okay,
the
okay.
hardest part is getting your lady to go to Israel.
Yes,
Your lady was already there. That's it. End of story. Do you understand? That's the hardest part to get your lady to go there.
she's not there
And it's,
anymore, by the way. Just FYI.
you understand, dude?
Yeah, I
Stop
get I
busting
get
my
what you're saying.
balls.
I'm not
Okay,
busting your
you
balls.
understand what I'm
No,
saying? Okay,
I get what you're saying.
if your lady was in America,
Listen,
trust me,
listen,
that shit wouldn't have happened.
I'm in
Okay,
full admission that it's easier, obviously, to make Aliyah if you are
when your lady's already
no,
there,
no,
I
no, no,
agree.
no. When you're, if you're, some, if you're single, forget about ladies already there. If you're
I'm not.
single,
I didn't. I wasn't treating you like a single man. I was treating you like a man who had a lady with a child on the way.
I
Okay.
understand.
So so again,
By the way, when I did that,
yeah.
even if that lady was there and there was a child, dude, it was literally, ask anybody that knows me, and my parents included, they were watching me do this. It was, and I'm telling you because I went through it. It was literally probably the thing that got me to like go from being like a 13-year-old in my head to like literally whatever age I was, 30. It was the hardest and most growth experience of my life. If you want to talk about Shvir Sakalim, like breaking of vessels in so many
Yeah.
levels, I arrive in Israel. I don't speak, Hebrew. Luckily, half the conversations I'm having with these like government people is in Russian, these offices. Renting an apartment, this, that, everything is like literally ass backwards balagan
When you got
disaster.
the okay, dude, listen,
Yeah.
listen. When
And
you
by the
got
way, she didn't make it things easier, the lady I was with. I'm just saying,
just answer a couple of simple questions.
yeah.
I like to get things down to what they call brass tacks. Just
Okay.
listen for a
Okay.
second, okay?
Okay.
The mechanics.
Yeah.
When you came to Israel, where
Yeah.
did you go to stay?
Where'd I go to stay?
When you got off the plane and you
In
got
the
into a cab,
in a tiny apartment the size of a closet, which I ended up having to pay for
I didn't
because
ask the size of the apartment. I said, where did you go?
this lady's apartment, yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
dude, I
Yes.
don't care if it's a freaking
But it
hut.
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
I'm not saying it was easy, but you
Yeah.
had a place to go already. It was there.
I would have had
There
one
was a
had I
person there.
came by myself, yeah.
There was a person there
Yeah.
who's already there with a
Yeah.
place.
Dude, can I
It could
tell
have
you
been
something?
100 square feet.
I want to tell you something very simple. People that I know who made Aliyah, let's say there was either the husband convinced the woman or vice versa, they didn't just get on a plane and, oh, we're gonna find a place when we get. No, they looked for. There's ways to look for places while you haven't arrived yet. There's an organization called Nefesh from Nefesh that helps you look for an apartment before you get to
Dude,
Israel.
look,
It's not you're not going into like
let's cut to the chase.
Mars.
Let's cut to the chase. You
Okay.
need to have
Yeah, you
some,
need to have money. Yeah, yeah,
gotta
obviously.
have money,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I'm not saying you gotta be, but you
They
have to
give you
have,
they give you a couple of bucks. They give you like $7,000 to
they
start.
don't, yeah, but
That's
that's
nothing.
not,
Yeah.
no.
You
You
go
gotta,
through this like this.
yeah. You can't just go, look, you can't, if you're, look, there's a lot of people
Yeah.
in the world, Jews and non-Jews,
Yeah.
who are living barely paycheck to paycheck.
Correct. But I'm not talking about those people. The
Okay,
people that dude, the
right, so
people that I talk to,
you've
no, no,
excluded
what
the
I'm saying is
majority of the Jews.
I speak to, no, I speak, the people that I speak to, who, I'll sometimes be invited to these well-to-do people's houses for Shabbat, and we get on the topic of Israel. Usually I'm not the one that brings it up. Somebody else asks me like about, to tell, they want to know about me. They want to know about Tzvi. So I tell them, I used to live in Israel. And then when I mention that, usually it's the husband, the host. Oh, one day, and I'm looking at him like when he says one day, I call it the Matisyahu effect. You know the song one day, one day. So he
I
says
don't. Yeah.
it's a song by Matisyahu, one day. He's singing about Mashiach, right?
Yeah.
So he says one day, and I'm looking at his house, and I'm looking, and I know what he does for a living, and I'm like, I'm thinking, I don't want to attack the guy, so I'm just like, one day. I mean, listen, I don't know the guy's challenges. I don't know. Maybe there's stuff keeping him. Maybe there's business, whatever it is. But I'm like, this guy could just get up today and go.
Could we stop talking about those kind of people and talk about
Yeah,
people like me? There's more
sure,
people like me
sure.
than than the people.
And by the way, I don't tell people like you. I don't tell people like you, oh, just go. I don't. I do not tell any people with families who are struggling, who don't know what's going to be and how they're going to this. I don't tell any of those types of people to go. At
Okay.
best, I tell singles who are just like, whatever, like they can't find their soulmate or whatever. They can't find them here. So I'm like, maybe try Israel. That's all I say. I don't bother people with that stuff, bro.
So,
I have
so,
my own whatever,
okay. So aside from just
my
going
own
through
path.
the mechanics of this
Yeah,
discussion,
yeah.
I wanted to uh, present a possible point, which is that um, if God wanted all of the Jewish people to be in Israel,
Yeah,
he wouldn't have created the type of circumstances that exist.
for sure.
Okay. And if Israel wanted, the people in Israel or the
Right.
government of Israel wanted all the Jews to be living in Israel, right?
You're right.
He would have said, okay, you ever see that movie Far and Away with,
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's what it's called, with
yeah,
Nicole Kidman
yeah.
and Tom Cruise? Remember, they're like Irish immigrants. They
Yeah,
come to the
yeah,
United
yeah,
States and they end
yeah,
up, America is expanding. They want people
yeah,
to have, so they go stake your land,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
there's a race. You can go
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
pick yourself a piece of land. It's free.
They would have done that, yeah,
You know what I
for
mean?
Jews, yeah,
Or here's a caravan. Here's like
yeah,
a container house
yeah,
to start with, right? Here's your
yeah,
land and go live, and you're welcome to come. Okay,
yeah.
nobody's doing that.
They
Okay,
kind of, can I tell you something? They kind of did that. You know, when they did that in Israel, they did that during the first, like in the 1800s and the early, before the state, basically, with the first Yeshuvim, that was kind of happening. That's actually how Tel Aviv was founded. They drew lots on like a beach. If you read the story of founding of Tel Aviv, like 19 whatever, oh 09 or something.
you're the one of
After
the lucky ones. Okay,
No, no, I'm saying after this, basically, you had to get in early. You know what I mean?
okay.
After that, after a certain point, you're that's it.
So the question: so are we sinners for not
No,
for not going there? And okay. Um, so the question remains: well, why is God doing this? Is it possible that He wants there to be Jews spread throughout the world to be centers of information
for sure,
for Torah for people who want to come
for
and learn
sure,
Torah, especially as you get
for
closer
sure.
to the times of Mashiach. There's more and more interest. There's more and more people who want to learn
Yeah.
from Jewish people about the
Yes.
Torah,
Yes.
not just Jewish people in general, but specifically Torah
For sure.
knowledge, right? And
Yes.
that's we preserved that for thousands of years. One of the main reasons is to help
Yeah.
non-Jewish people who have questions.
Yeah.
We can teach them. We've been preparing for this for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems that that's the setup that God set up.
I'm in full agreement with you, Frank, and which is precisely why I feel like Hashem is torturing me because on the one hand, like he made me in such a way where part of me is like a Chabad guy who wants to do exactly that, who's inclined to do exactly that, and then and there's another part of me which just wants to be, in like again like in somewhere near Shiloh with his own vineyard and that's
So
it.
you might be one of those few
Yeah.
special individuals chosen to live in the land of
No,
Israel.
that's what I'm saying. And no, but at the same time, I'm in full agreement with you that there needs to be this, it's called ufaratsta, as Chabad calls it, spread out and go
Right.
teach Torah to people and all that stuff. Like I'm all for it. And you know, while I'm here, I try to do that in my own tiny way. I'm nowhere near any of the Chabad rabbis that I know. I'm nowhere near any of these people. I don't know. Dude, can I tell you something? I was sitting on Shavuot. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, and we were sitting in a campfire, and behind me, and I mean, people, they're singing. Random people are singing random songs, like different Jewish songs, and usually people sing the songs that everybody knows, right? And it doesn't matter how you grew up in the Orthodox world. There's songs that everybody like knows what they are. And then behind me, there's two girls. They start singing, and I knew one of them was Chabad. I could tell one of them is from like Crown Heights. They start singing the Chabad version of the Hanukkah song. When you light the
Yeah.
Hanerot,
Yeah.
and they sang the whole thing.
Yeah.
And like the whole straight through, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, dude. I literally started, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. I started sobbing, and it hit me like a ton of bricks and I said, Hashem, I want to be like I didn't mean it in a cute way. I meant it like literal way. I want to be a husband of the Rebbe. Please help me to be a husband of the
Yeah.
Rebbe. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks that I realized because I was singing along with them, and it was just us three. Like there's a bunch of people there, so there's these two Chabad girls singing that song and me. And then I turned around as a joke. I was like, this needs to be more Lubov, not Lubov enough, like whatever. Everybody else is just like clueless, a couple of other people. And I'm just like, wow, I'm Chabad. I am Chabad. Like I told this girl, I'm like, you should know, my friends make fun of me that I go to these, all the Chabad holidays. I go to these for bring-ins. I make sure to go. I go on 19th of Kislev. I go on a Tevis. I go on,
Yeah,
whatever.
you're better at that stuff than I am.
Yeah,
Go to
yeah, yeah, yeah. You notice I flew in and I'm like, guys, oh, is there for bring-in the day I fly in? Or is it for bringing that, I had to plan my flight around the for bringing.
yeah.
And then we went for like 5 minutes just to make, just to say that we were there, whatever, by next to you. So like I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it. It's just my soul needs to be in the land at the end of the day. I'm all about people doing all that stuff. But, you know,
So
like
when are you going?
dude, you know that the Rebbe told certain people who met him in
Yeah.
private, he told this Rabbi Schloss, he told him, uh, his name's Moshe, Moshe, your place. He told him to go to the old city of Jerusalem
Yeah.
in 1982 when psychos were buying apartments there. No one, basically no one, and go live there. And your place is there, and you're gonna host students, and you're gonna teach them Hasidus, and be an emissary of the
Yeah.
Rebbe in your apartment in the old city of Jerusalem. And now, if you go to this guy's house and you go up to his roof, you could see the entire, Temple Mount from there. I asked him, Rabbi Schloss, if you wanted to sell this apartment, how much do you think it would? He's like, it would be stupid for me to do that, of me to do that. And he's like, it's priceless. He's like, I don't know, bazillions of dollars. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to tell you what I bought it for, which is nothing at the time that I bought it, and now it's whatever. So the Rebbe told him to go, and a few other people to go. So whoever needed to go, he knew who needed to go, and he tell them. So I'm pretty sure he would have told me to go. I'm sure of it. I'm sure if I met the Rebbe, he would tell me you need to go to
So when are you
Jerusalem.
going?
Some things have to be figured out, Tony, and then I'm out of here.
How about Nefesh B'Nefesh? Huh? How
No,
about
that's ship, dude. That's already been. I exhausted my socialist provisions. They already gave me my stuff 15 years
okay?
ago. Dude,
So
you know how quickly you could spend $5,000 on
yeah, I
coffee?
know.
No,
Yes,
on coffee, on
yeah, I
coffee.
know. Yeah, actually,
Ho
I know
Holy
my
crap.
wife. My wife is a coffee
Dude,
drinker.
my ex, she
Yeah,
had to go to cafes,
yeah, I understand.
just like basic cafes, nothing. I swear to you, I think I spent 2,500, at least $2,500 American dollars in about a 3 month span on freaking afuchim soya.
Yeah,
You know what afuchim soya is? Upside down
it's a
coffee with
retarded
soya.
economy and it's a
Yeah,
retarded system of government. Okay,
at least
so
it's real coffee.
the coffee's good.
Yes.
Listen, folks, I just wanted to say that despite all the stuff that we're saying about Israel, it's all
Yeah.
true. Somehow the people miraculously,
Yeah.
you know, people live there and
Mhm.
people are happy. You know,
Yeah.
in between all
It's one
that.
of the, dude, it's one of, they do, you know, the happiness index. It's like number 8 or something, number 5,
Yeah,
something like that.
which is a miracle because it
Yeah.
has nothing. It's despite everything.
Yeah.
Despite everything.
You know why?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, people realize, human beings realize that everything's about, when you're there, even with all the problems, it's all about meaning. Everything means something there. You know, something as simple as, unfortunately, you know, maybe people like you and I, you know, when Memorial Day in America comes around, people like you and I remember the veterans, right? The people who fought in wars. Largely in America, Memorial Day is a sale in department stores, right? Or a car sale. In Israel, you have Memorial Day, where there's like entire events memorializing people who fought in the wars.
Yeah.
And then literally the next day is Yom Ha'atzmaut. You know, it goes from like Memorial Day to July 4th. Next day, it flips over.
Yeah.
And the previous week you have Yom HaShoah, where people remember you know. So everything means something. Even if you disagree with the state, even if you're not like whatever into the government and all, there's meaning everywhere you go. So I think that's what gives people happiness, joy, even if they don't, you know, even if they're living in freaking overdraft, 20 bazillion dollars in overdraft in their bank account, you know, which is not fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about, you know, it's a lot of people take it for granted, right? But for Jews to be able to live in their own land miraculously, you know, it's it is a almost endless source of happiness.
Yeah. That's
It's
what
a
I
type
was
of
telling.
freedom that it's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
You know, you know, like even us Jews here in America, especially myself, like I actually really love America.
Yeah.
Um, not even just like attachment to the land, which I do have, but even the founding principles and I feel patriotism and I feel pride. But you know, I always gotta wonder, you know, do my fellow Americans see me as an American or am I always being suspected or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. That's like a. I'm not saying Jews are the only ones who experience that kind of thing, but that is I think something that that Jews universally experience.
Look, can I tell you
Not
something?
having to
Yeah.
feel that way,
Yeah.
like among your own people, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter who your people are, but just like let's just come up with, you know, like Swahili people,
Yeah.
Eskimos, whatever, you know. But just like if you're an Eskimo, you're among Eskimos in an Eskimo land.
Yeah.
You, that's that's priceless.
Yeah.
You understand? Like so Jews are people historically who have had the least you know, at least for the past 2,000 years, have had the least access to that.
Dude,
That's just having access to that
we are
itself
the only
is joy.
people who came back to our own land after 2,000 years, and not only came back, we literally, and you could say it's not the same spoken language that was at that, you know, the time before, but we essentially quasi revived the dead language to everyday use, largely dead language, or only language that
I
was
don't
using, not
I
dead,
don't
but like it was only used in the Torah, not a, it wasn't a
yeah, it was
spoken.
Right. It was used in the Torah
We
academies through in prayer and
but the fact that we have now a colloquial national language that like, I can go like I know a little bit of Hebrew and I can meet an Israeli like guy in I don't know, Florida or
yeah,
California, New York. And I can speak to him in Hebrew. It's absolutely insane. It's like it's like we might as well revive, if you saw Passion of the Caviezel, might as well revive Aramaic to everyday use because that's what we spoke at that time. We spoke Aramaic.
yeah,
Time of the not just learning it in Talmud.
yeah,
It's incredible. And then on top of that, you have like, some kind of, yeah, I don't know, as flawed as it is, and people are constantly leaving or selling their companies. We have like industry, we have startups, we have med tech technology, we have this, we have that. It's absolutely insane. I hate to sound like, one of these freaking whatever, the startup nation guys. Oh, but when you think about it, it's insane. And now we have like this military industry that like could rival America if we were just allowed to freaking produce our own, like our jets and our like tanks and guns and
yeah.
it's nuts what we've been able to do.